The greatest war you will ever fight is not with the world, not with your circumstances, not even with other people. It's within the territory of your own mind. Every thought you entertain, every belief you choose to accept or reject becomes a weapon that either strengthens you or weakens you. The battlefield of the mind is invisible, but its consequences are visible everywhere in your life. What you think about consistently becomes what you experience, because the mind is the command center of destiny. If you lose the battle in your head, it won't matter how much talent, skill, or opportunity you have, you'll sabotage every victory before it even begins. The war within your thoughts begins every morning the moment you wake up. You face the whispers of doubt, the voices of fear, and the memories of failure trying to convince you that you're not enough. You face the weight of comparison, seeing others move faster or appear more successful, and the temptation to believe you're falling behind. But in those moments, your power lies in your ability to direct your mind, not surrender to it. You must remind yourself that the external world only mirrors the internal one. If you want your life to rise, your mindset must rise first. A mind that is untrained becomes a playground for chaos. It drifts toward worry, procrastination, and insecurity, because that's the path of least resistance. But a trained mind, a mind governed by purpose, focus, and faith, turns chaos into order. It takes the same situation that breaks most people and turns it into fuel for growth. The person who masters their mind is never truly defeated, because they've learned how to reinterpret pain as progress and rejection as redirection. When your mind becomes strong, your emotions stop controlling your direction. You no longer live by the constant waves of how you feel, because feelings are temporary and unreliable. Instead, you begin to live by conviction, by principle, by truth that doesn't shift with circumstance. A disciplined mind knows how to feel fear and still move forward, how to experience doubt and still act in faith, how to see obstacles and still visualize victory. That's the kind of mind that creates transformation instead of excuses. Most people underestimate how powerful their thoughts really are. They assume mindset is a motivational concept when in reality, it's a spiritual law. The thoughts you tolerate become the atmosphere of your life. If your inner world is filled with doubt, lack, and confusion, your outer world will always reflect those same patterns. But if your thoughts are rooted in belief, gratitude, and possibility, life starts to bend in your favor. The mind attracts what it focuses on, and what it focuses on grows stronger. Every decision you make is filtered through your dominant thought patterns. That means the quality of your choices, your relationships, your business, your health, all of it flows from what's happening in your head. You cannot plant seeds of fear and expect a harvest of confidence. You cannot water negativity and expect joy to bloom. The mind will always produce what it has been fed. And if you don't take control of that feeding process, the world will feed it for you with fear, distraction, and doubt disguised as entertainment. The war for your mind is subtle. It's fought in your habits, your environment, and the content you consume. Every conversation, every song, every post, every voice you allow into your ears is shaping how you think. You have to become intentional about protecting your mental space like it's sacred ground, because it is. The wrong influences can plant seeds that grow into strongholds of limitation, while the right ones can plant seeds of faith that grow into freedom. A strong mind doesn't allow everyone to speak into it. It filters information through purpose and truth. The difference between those who live empowered lives and those who stay stuck in cycles of mediocrity isn't intelligence. It's awareness. The empowered person is conscious of their thoughts. They watch what they say to themselves. They challenge limiting beliefs. And they refuse to accept mental narratives that don't align with their goals. They know the mind can become either a servant or a master, and they choose to master it through consistency and discipline. Building mental strength requires the courage to face yourself honestly. It requires confronting insecurities, healing past wounds, and refusing to let your history dictate your potential. You can't build a strong mind by ignoring your weaknesses. You build it by confronting them until they lose power over you. The mind grows strong through adversity, through pressure, through moments when you could break, but you don't. Every time you push back against fear, your mental armor thickens. The battlefield of the mind determines who you become. You can either let it be the place where your potential dies or the ground where your greatness is born. The person who understands that every thought is a soldier in the war for destiny learns to command those thoughts with authority. When the mind becomes trained, everything else in life follows its lead because the body, emotions, and environment all submit to the power of a mastered mind. Strength is not something you are born with. It is something you build. And the way you build it is through pressure. Every challenge, every disappointment, every delay, every setback carries within it a seed of development that cannot be found in ease. The truth most people avoid is that comfort never created greatness. Growth lives in the tension between what you want and what it takes to get it. When life presses on you, it's not trying to destroy you, it's testing what you're made of, refining your character, and stretching your potential. Pressure is not the enemy. It's the sculptor shaping you into someone unrecognizable from who you used to be. People often pray for strength, but reject the very situations designed to produce it. They ask for power, but they resist the process that builds it. Every obstacle you face is an opportunity to build inner muscles that can handle greater blessings without the weight of resistance. Strength never forms. Just as the body grows through tension and strain, the mind and spirit develop through adversity. The pressure that feels unbearable today is actually preparing you for the platform you've been asking for. Pressure reveals truth. It exposes the cracks in your mindset, the weaknesses in your beliefs, and the areas of your life where you've been pretending to be strong. It shows you what needs to be fixed before success amplifies it. When everything is easy, you don't grow, you just maintain. But when everything feels heavy, you either break or you become unbreakable. The choice is always yours. A person who runs from pressure runs from transformation. A person who embraces it becomes dangerous because they learn how to thrive in environments where others crumble. Every diamond starts as coal, ordinary, unimpressive, and buried in darkness. It's the heat and pressure over time that turns it into something priceless. That's exactly what life does to you. It applies force, heat, and time until your impurities burn away and your brilliance is revealed. Most people quit before the process is complete. They escape the heat because it's uncomfortable, never realizing they were seconds away from becoming unbreakable. Pressure does not come to destroy you. It comes to reveal the strength you didn't know you had. You cannot become mentally powerful if you avoid struggle. Mental toughness is built by walking through the fire, not around it. When you face rejection, when people misunderstand you, when you fail and have to start again, that's where the layers of resilience form. Every no becomes a lesson. Every loss becomes a teacher. Every storm becomes a mirror showing you who you really are. The pressure that makes you question yourself is the same pressure that will make you respect yourself once you overcome it. There's a difference between pain and suffering. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Pressure brings pain, but what you choose to believe during that pain determines what it produces in you. A weak mind interprets pain as punishment. A strong mind interprets it as preparation. When you see struggle as training, you stop complaining about it and start cooperating with it. You realize that life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. Every challenge is a test of how badly you want what you say you want. The reason some people stay average is because they pray for promotion but hide from pressure. They want success without sacrifice, visibility without vulnerability, results without resistance. But you can't have one without the other. The process of becoming strong is uncomfortable because it requires you to outgrow your old patterns. Pressure pushes you out of small thinking, forces you to depend on your faith, and stretches your imagination beyond limitation. It's not easy, but it's necessary. When you learn to see pressure as a privilege, everything changes. You stop seeing challenges as attacks and start seeing them as assignments. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That shift in perspective is where real power begins. The stronger your perspective, the lighter the pressure feels, because now you understand it's molding you into someone capable of handling greater responsibility and greater rewards. Pressure will always reveal what's inside of you. When squeezed, the untrained mind releases panic, doubt, and fear. But a strong mind releases focus, faith, and strategy. The more you experience pressure, the more control you gain over your emotions. You become calm under chaos, patient under pressure, stable in the storm. That kind of stability makes you unshakable in a world that constantly shifts. It makes you a leader others depend on when everything else falls apart. If you can endure the pressure, you can handle the promise. Every great destiny is protected by a period of difficulty designed to prove whether you can sustain it. Pressure is the price of purpose. The same heat that melts the weak hardens the strong, and the same resistance that breaks others becomes the foundation of those who refuse to quit. The moment you stop running from pressure and start learning from it, you step into a power few people ever find, because you've learned that strength is not the absence of struggle. It's the mastery of it. Discipline is the foundation upon which true strength is built. Without it, the mind becomes a slave to emotions, constantly shifting between moments of inspiration and waves of doubt. Emotions are like the weather. They change daily, sometimes hourly, but discipline is like the mountain that stands firm no matter the storm. When you learn to choose discipline over emotion, you stop living like a reaction to your circumstances and start living as the architect of your destiny. The person who lives by emotion is tossed around by life. The one who lives by discipline shapes life according to their vision. Most people fail not because they lack potential, but because they lack consistency. They only act when they feel motivated, only work when they feel inspired, and only believe when things are easy. But success doesn't wait for feelings to align. It rewards those who move despite resistance. Discipline means doing what needs to be done long after the feeling of wanting to do it has disappeared. It means showing up even when you don't feel ready, working when you're tired, praying when you're discouraged, and believing when nothing around you gives you a reason to. When you lead with discipline, emotions lose their power over you. Fear might visit, but it can't stay. Doubt might whisper, but it can't dictate. The disciplined mind recognizes emotions for what they are, signals, not instructions. They're allowed to exist, but they're not allowed to rule. You acknowledge the fear, but you still move. You feel the uncertainty, but you still act. That's how you train the mind to obey purpose instead of pain. Every time you choose discipline over emotion, your spirit gains strength and your will becomes unbreakable. Discipline transforms chaos into order. It gives structure to your thoughts, rhythm to your actions, and power to your words. It's what allows you to take control of your time, your habits, and ultimately, your results. People who lack discipline live in cycles. Excited one week, lost the next. They chase motivation like it's oxygen, never realizing that motivation is temporary, but discipline is eternal. The moment you build a routine that aligns with your vision, you stop chasing progress and start creating it. The mind craves structure even when it resists it. Without discipline, your potential leaks through distraction and indecision. But when discipline governs your life, everything begins to move with purpose. You wake up on time, you follow through on promises, you manage your focus instead of wasting it. And slowly, what once felt impossible becomes normal because discipline turns extraordinary effort into ordinary habit. You stop being impressed by consistency. You become it. There will be days when your emotions will try to convince you to quit, when your thoughts will say it's not worth it, when your heart will feel tired of waiting. But that's where discipline becomes your best friend. Discipline doesn't negotiate with feelings. It doesn't care whether you feel like showing up. It demands that you do. The more you practice it, the more you realize that discipline is not punishment, it's protection. It protects your vision from being destroyed by temporary moods. It keeps you aligned with your purpose when your emotions try to lead you astray. Discipline is the invisible force behind greatness. The most successful people aren't the most emotional. They're the most disciplined. They have learned how to silence their impulses long enough to hear wisdom. They know that feelings are fleeting, but results are permanent. Discipline builds habits, and habits build identity. The moment you repeat an action long enough, it becomes part of who you are, not just something you do. That's how you evolve from wishing for change to becoming the change. You can't trust your emotions to carry you where you want to go because emotions are inconsistent. They make you love your purpose one day and doubt it the next. But discipline creates stability in the midst of emotional storms. It allows you to keep walking in alignment with your values even when your feelings scream otherwise. It's the anchor that keeps you grounded when life tries to pull you in 1,000 directions. Every step of obedience strengthens your inner authority, and that authority turns into unstoppable momentum. Discipline is a decision you make daily. It's not glamorous, it's not loud, and most of the time it's not even celebrated. But it's the quiet power that separates dreamers from doers. While emotions make promises, discipline keeps them. While emotions make excuses, discipline creates results. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes, until eventually it's no longer something you force, it's simply who you are. The world respects those who can master themselves because self-mastery is the highest form of freedom. When you no longer depend on motivation to move, when you no longer allow mood to dictate momentum, you become unstoppable. That's the paradox of discipline. It feels like restriction at first, but it's the very thing that sets you free. The person who learns to act out of principle instead of emotion discovers a level of peace and power that few ever experience because their consistency no longer depends on how they feel, but on who they've decided to become. Peace is not the absence of noise. It is the presence of power. True peace doesn't come when life gets easier. It comes when your mind gets stronger, When you have peace within yourself, chaos loses its ability to control you. You no longer react to every storm, every insult, or every setback. You learn to move with calm authority, knowing that panic never solves a problem. A peaceful mind is not passive. It is powerful. It doesn't run from difficulty, it governs it. That kind of inner stillness radiates strength in a world addicted to distraction and fear. When you build a peaceful mind, people begin to notice something different about you. While others rush, you move deliberately. While others complain, you stay grounded. While others crumble under pressure, you remain composed. This doesn't mean you don't feel stress or pain. It means you've trained yourself not to be ruled by them. Peace gives you the ability to choose your response rather than be dragged by reaction. It is the proof that you've gained mastery over yourself, and when others see it, they can't help but be drawn to it or intimidated by it. Peace is not found through avoidance, it's built through alignment. You can't run from conflict and expect peace to follow you. Peace is the result of knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you refuse to tolerate. When your thoughts, words, and actions move in harmony, your mind becomes untouchable. Distractions lose their power because they can't compete with a focused spirit. You stop arguing for your limitations, stop trying to control everything, and start trusting that what is meant for you will not miss you. Most people chase peace through control. They believe if they can fix their circumstances, manage people, or change outcomes, they'll finally feel calm, but that's an illusion. Peace doesn't come from controlling the external. It comes from mastering the internal. The world doesn't need to quiet down for you to find peace. You just need to quiet down the noise within. When you stop needing everything to go your way, peace becomes your natural state. When you learn to let go of what you can't change, life begins to change for you. A peaceful mind sees clearly. It's not clouded by fear or confusion. It doesn't make decisions based on impulse or insecurity. Peace allows you to think strategically, even in chaos, to see opportunities others miss because they're blinded by panic. That's why peace is power. It sharpens your discernment and strengthens your confidence. People often mistake stillness for weakness, but stillness is where wisdom lies. When you can remain calm in conflict, you see the truth hidden beneath the noise, and truth always gives you leverage. Peace also protects your energy. Every argument, every drama, every distraction that tries to pull you and loses its grip when your mind is at peace. You stop giving emotional access to everyone who demands attention. You no longer allow people's chaos to become your chaos. You can love people without carrying their confusion, and you can serve others without losing yourself in their storms. Peace builds boundaries, and those boundaries keep you from being drained by things that don't deserve your energy. A strong mind values peace more than popularity. You realize that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every opinion requires your response. The loudest person in the room is not the most powerful one, it's the quiet one who controls their spirit that truly holds authority. Peace allows you to walk away from unnecessary battles with confidence, not because you're weak, but because you know your strength doesn't need to prove itself. When you understand this, silence becomes your strategy and patience becomes your weapon. Maintaining peace in a chaotic world requires intention. You have to choose it every day, sometimes every hour. You do this by protecting your environment, limiting negative input, and surrounding yourself with people who value growth, not gossip. You guard your mornings, you manage your focus, and you refuse to let temporary emotions create permanent damage. Peace is a habit, not a coincidence. It grows stronger every time you refuse to react to what once triggered you. Peace doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means your feelings no longer dictate your direction. You can experience anger without losing your composure, disappointment without losing your vision, and pressure without losing your poise. When peace lives inside you, no external storm can shake your foundation. You stop trying to outrun pain and start learning from it. You begin to see every test as training for a higher level of awareness. The calmer you become, the more control you gain, because chaos cannot manipulate a mind that refuses to be moved. When you embody peace, you carry presence. You don't need to shout to command attention. Your energy speaks for you. People sense the authority of someone who is unmoved by confusion, someone who radiates clarity while others chase noise. Peace becomes your armor in a world of anxiety, your strength in a world of fear, your identity in a world of chaos. It's the mark of someone who has conquered the battlefield within and now walks with quiet confidence, knowing that true power never needs to announce itself. The moment you stop needing validation, you start to live with real power. Most people spend their lives chasing approval. Approval from friends, family, social media, coworkers, hoping someone will tell them they're enough. But the truth is, when you build a mind strong enough to stand alone, you no longer beg for recognition. Validation becomes irrelevant because your worth no longer depends on external applause. When you detach from the need to be accepted, you become free to walk in authenticity, and that freedom is something most people never experience. Seeking validation is one of the easiest ways to lose your identity. The more you chase people's approval, the more you drift from your purpose. You start bending your values to fit their comfort, hiding your truth to avoid their judgment, and silencing your vision to protect their opinions. Every time you do that, a piece of your potential dies quietly inside you. The strongest minds are built when you stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Does this align with who I'm meant to be?" The day you stop performing for others is the day your true growth begins. Validation feels good for a moment, but it's a trap that keeps you dependent. When people praise you, you rise. When they criticize you, you fall. That's not freedom, that's emotional slavery. When your confidence comes from others, it disappears when they withdraw it. The person who learns to affirm themselves becomes untouchable because their identity is rooted in conviction, not in claps. You start moving with quiet confidence because your sense of worth no longer needs permission. That's when you become a force of nature, consistent, grounded, and unwavering. People will always have opinions about your journey, but their opinions don't pay your bills, build your future, or fulfill your purpose. The crowd celebrates you when you win, but disappears when you struggle. That's why depending on validation is dangerous. It makes you loyal to approval instead of progress. A powerful mind knows how to stay focused, whether they're being celebrated or criticized. The applause no longer distracts you, and the silence no longer discourages you. You begin to understand that validation is a mirror that reflects insecurity, not a measure of truth. When you detach from the need for approval, you stop shrinking to fit in. You no longer dim your light to make others comfortable. Some people feel uncomfortable around your confidence, not because you're arrogant, but because your self-assurance exposes their self-doubt. The mind that stands firm in identity doesn't need to prove anything. You stop competing, comparing, and justifying your success. You simply live it. The more secure you become in yourself, the more freedom you give others to be authentic to. Approval seeking is often disguised as humility, But real humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself truthfully. It's knowing your value without arrogance and standing firm in it without apology. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth because your actions prove it. A strong mind doesn't argue for attention. It commands respect through consistency, discipline, and purpose. Once you reach that level of self-assurance, external praise becomes a pleasant bonus, not an emotional necessity. Detaching from validation doesn't mean becoming cold or isolated. It means learning to value your voice above the noise. It's understanding that the same people who praise you today may criticize you tomorrow, so you build stability within. You begin to listen to your intuition more than opinions, trust your faith more than feedback, and act according to vision, not validation. You become immune to manipulation because you no longer crave approval. The world cannot control someone who no longer fears rejection. Every time you prioritize authenticity over acceptance, you strengthen your mind. You stop chasing popularity and start cultivating purpose. The approval of others becomes too small, a reward for the greatness you're called to. That shift gives you clarity because you start focusing on what truly matters: growth, truth, and legacy. When you no longer live for likes, you start living for impact. When you stop performing for applause, you start performing for purpose. And that's when real transformation begins. The desire for validation often comes from insecurity, an inner voice that whispers you're not enough unless someone says so. But the moment you decide you are enough without external confirmation, everything changes. You walk differently, speak differently, think differently. You no longer question whether you belong, you know you do. You stop begging for seats at tables and start building your own. The strong mind doesn't chase opportunity. It attracts it through confidence, clarity, and conviction. A person who has detached from validation becomes intimidating to those still seeking it. Their peace confuses people who rely on approval for self-worth. Their independence exposes others' emotional dependence. But that's the cost of strength. You will outgrow people who only understand weakness. When you no longer need to be liked, you're finally ready to be respected. You move with quiet assurance, guided by truth instead of trends. And that's when the world begins to notice, not because you're loud, but because you're unshakable. Every thought you think is a seed, and every seed you feed eventually grows into the reality you live. The mind is not a container, it's a garden. Whatever you water, whether it's faith or fear, discipline or doubt, will eventually take root and produce fruit in your life. This is why guarding your thoughts is one of the most powerful forms of self-mastery. Most people allow any thought to take residence in their mind, unaware that they're planting weeds where they should be cultivating wisdom. The quality of your life is a reflection of the quality of your thoughts, and the person who learns to train their thinking learns to transform their existence. Training your thoughts is not about pretending negativity doesn't exist. It's about deciding what deserves your focus. You can't stop birds from flying over your head, but you can stop them from building nests there. In the same way, you can't control every thought that crosses your mind, but you can control which ones you give power to. Weak minds feed fear until it becomes truth, but strong minds starve fear and feed faith until belief becomes reality. You become what you constantly dwell on, and your dominant thoughts create your dominant emotions, which ultimately shape your dominant results. The mind follows the law of repetition. What you repeat becomes what you remember, and what you remember becomes what you believe. Every time you repeat a limiting thought like, "I can't," You etch it deeper into your identity. But every time you repeat empowering truths like, I can, I will, I'm capable, you rewire your subconscious to align with your higher purpose. The mind doesn't care whether you feed it truth or lies. It simply grows what you plant. That's why discipline and thought is more powerful than emotion. Emotion reacts, thought directs. Feeding the right thoughts requires awareness. You can't change what you don't notice. Most people live on autopilot, thinking the same thoughts they thought yesterday, feeling the same emotions, and repeating the same behaviors without realizing their minds are running old scripts. Training your thoughts begins with observation. You must become the watcher of your mind, the guardian of your inner dialogue. When you start noticing your thoughts, you gain the power to redirect them. Awareness breaks the cycle that keeps you trapped in patterns of fear and failure. You feed your mind through what you consume, what you read, watch, listen to, and speak. Every piece of information is a seed. That's why protecting your mental diet is crucial. Garbage in, garbage out. Wisdom in, greatness out. If you constantly feed your mind negativity, gossip, or distractions, don't be surprised when your life mirrors confusion and chaos. But if you fill it with truth, vision, and gratitude, you'll find yourself walking in clarity and power. What you entertain mentally eventually becomes what you experience physically. Starving the wrong thoughts is just as important as feeding the right ones. When fear arises, don't nurture it with overthinking or conversation, starve it with faith. When doubt shows up, don't give it airtime, silence it with affirmation. When insecurity whispers, don't agree, replace it with gratitude. Every thought you entertain is a decision to either build your mind or break it. The mind becomes what it repeatedly practices, so practice focus, confidence, and peace until they become your default state. The mind doesn't grow strong through positivity alone. It grows through discipline and direction. It takes work to think intentionally, especially when life gets loud. But every time you redirect your focus from fear to faith, you strengthen your mental muscles. Every time you replace a limiting thought with a liberating one, you raise your internal standard. You train your mind the same way you train your body, through repetition, resistance, and consistency. The more you do it, the easier